Now, Steve, another book that I know you worked on for many years, I know from conversations we've had that it was a book long in the making, uh, is Woden, a historical companion. And this is a book that was published by Uppsala Books about 1 year ago. And in the years since it has come out, it has been one of the most popular books published by Uppsala Books, and it has generated an enormous amount of comment and feedback. So, looking at the book now, 1 year later, I wonder what thoughts you have on Woden, any new thoughts that you might like to share with us.
Woden has been um the success of the Woden book has been something of a surprise to me. Not because I didn't think anybody would be interested, but because it's such a hefty read. I honestly didn't think that it would appeal to too many people. There's been an awful lot of material written on the subject of Woden down the years, and not all of it terribly helpful for an understanding. A lot of it is, shall we say, wishful thinking. But I decided that the way to avoid that pitfall was to collect together as much as we can safely say about the topic of the god specifically and his place within the mythology more widely, and to present that evidence in terms of sequentially through from actually from the last century BC is the first item that really requires discussion in the context of Woden. It's not even in a runic script; it's in a South Italic script. It's an item that has a Germanic text on it, which may refer to the god. You'll have to read the book to find out which it is. Starting there and coming through the Danish bog deposits, what Tacitus has to say about the worship of Mercurius in his day. Mercurius seems to have been one of the Interpretatio Romana. Mercurius seems to have been one of the figures familiar to the Romans which were associated with something that can plausibly be said to be Woden, or the predecessor there to Wodenas in the first century BC. Um, but that takes you only so far. The early medieval material, there is, surprisingly quite a lot of reference. There are quite a lot of references to Woden or a Woden-like character, shall we say, a mysterious visitor who turns up at just the right moment when the subject of the story is at his lowest ebb, and he turns his life around in a mysterious way. And that's not just one example of that. There are several. But the other aspect to Woden that I have emphasized in the book, but bears further research, of course, is where does his power come from? What is it about Woden that gives him his hold over so many gifted people, leaders and statesmen on the one hand, but so many poets and musicians and artisans, craftsmen of various types. Why are they so frequently associated with that god? And I think, well, the answer is that he's there in the drink. Woden Woden's power, the benefits that one can acquire from an association with the god, are derived through his sacrament, which is the drink, the alcohol. That's where all this stuff comes from. Not specifically in terms of just having a drink and a good time, but that power that sometimes the moment can seize you and induce you to behave in a slightly uninhibited way, the way that music can make you get up and dance. Exactly all that stuff. This is the inspiration, the enthusiasm that Woden provides for his followers. That's something that I've looked at in the book, and were I writing it again now, I would probably look further to into that aspect of it all and try to develop some ideas there. Um, I do reference it in the book, but it's not foregrounded in the way that I would like to do it if I were writing the book again. And by the way, no chance. There's no way I should be producing another monster like this. Well, or will I?
Yeah, your remarks about the drink and the transformed state of minds that Woden seems to be connected to. It's interesting to think about how in Middle English the word woad is sort of a standard word that just means crazy. You know, he was
Yeah,
woad in
yeah.
Chaucer.
Wood in a
And,
wood, isn't it? Yeah, yeah,
and I think in this case, we're seeing a clear case of pejoration where a word that must originally have had a wider range of meanings has narrowed into a more particularly negative meaning in Middle English times.
yeah,
But but certainly in Old English times and in Proto-Germanic times, the antecedents of woad had to denote a kind of inspiration and any kind of elevated state, whether you were preparing for battle or you were intoxicated or you were dancing or doing some kind of ritual. You were woed whenever you were anything other than the mundane, it
yeah,
seems.
yeah, yeah. It's that mental excitement that just gets you going. And I think we know that Warden is associated with runes, which is to say mysteries, secrets, or if you like, puzzles. And there's that other kind of inspiration that great satisfaction you get from solving a riddle, even just like a mundane crossword clue. If when you think about it, and then all of a sudden it's there. Well, that's Walden, isn't it? That's the inspiration. That's the sudden clarity that is such a satisfying feeling. And you can imagine that something like that has been going on for centuries, that people have been having that kind of experience.
Right. And I think this is really the key to understanding the scope of the God's domain, in that this is a God who is associated very clearly with poetry, but also with warfare, also with the afterlife, also with medicine. Um, and I think you can understand this seemingly uh, strange group of traits that Woden has when you think about all of them as having something to do with elevated states of mind
Yeah,
and with that transformation away from the ordinary and the mundane.
exactly so. Yeah, yeah. And whatever you choose to say about Walden or Odin, is never mundane. He's never ordinary. He's too tricky for that, to be honest. He's too um one doesn't say duplicitous, but that word does come to mind. That there's an whole other aspect to him that isn't there on the surface, and you have to read into these sources and try to, well, make up your own mind, maybe make up your own mind. But the book presents as much of the sources as you can get between two covers. Um, and yeah, it's been very well received, and I've been very gratified that all my hard work has kind of paid off.